Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. We are going to have a great show for you today. We have a special guest today. We're still trying to get connected, and we will get connected eventually with that special guest. But as you know, when it comes to these technical issues, every so often it requires sometimes a bit of patience, and it seems like our special guest is in fact here. But before we get started, folks, let me first make sure we have connectivity. Lina, are you there? Of course, I can't hear you, but we will see what we can do to make sure and correct those issues in real time. Let's see. I love that sign behind you. What about let's see if we can get you speaking and see what's going on with your audio. If your audio fails to come in the long run, Lina, let me give you a number to call as well, which is 646 746. I'm getting old, it's not like before. 646-716-5812. So worst case scenario, if we can't get that voice coming in, that is what we'll do. Did you get that? Okay. Let's go ahead and get started, folks. As you know, things are not all that they seem to be. We hear about this great blue wave. We hear that it's coming. Everybody think it's going to be okay. Everybody think it is what do they call it? That it's done. That is what they believe. They believe it is done. They believe for sure this is all over. And I tell you, folks, it is not all over. Lina, are you there right now? I have you, I think, on the phone as well.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
excellent.
I think we're going to have
so
to
at least
do
we
the
have phone and video at once. So whichever one fails, however we go. Anyhow, let me get started with the program because I have a whole lot of questions that I want to ask Lina. Lina is running for Harris County Judge. But before we get started with the program, I want to let you guys know what is the title of the program today. We are trying our best, folks, to activate all progressives, all Democrats, all thinking Republicans. Why? Because we are at a point in time where we have a clear and present danger, not only in the White House, but in the state houses, but in the county houses, and everywhere else. It is something that has to be mitigated. Today, candidate for county judge Lina Hidalgo visits why, and the other topic we'll be covering also is why every progressive must vote. Subtitle: Harris County, Texas County Judge candidate discusses her race. How does this reflect America as a whole? Here, 25 reasons why every progressive must vote. Today, we have a special guest. After our guest, the blog of the week will discuss those 25 reasons why we all must vote. Lina Hidalgo is a Democratic nominee for Harris County Judge, an executive position that controls the budget for our Harris County, the third largest county in America. Folks, that is an impressive and important position. If you have any calls for her, you know the number to call as well. Lina was born in Colombia when the drug war raged and kidnapping were rampant. As they left their home, Lina's parents had two goals: to get the family to a safer place, to make sure that Lina and her brother had a good education. Immigrating to Harris County as a child, Lina is a proud product of Texas public schools and studied political science at Stanford University. Lina has always been committed to giving back. She has dedicated her work in life to our most vulnerable communities, from her time at the Texas Civil Rights Project to serving as a Spanish-English medical interpreter at the Texas Medical Center and supporting immigrants in search of lost loved ones. From her early childhood in South America and Mexico to her years in Texas public schools and her time working with nonprofits at home and abroad, Lina has been up close with what happens when societies tolerate corruptions and disparity. She'll fight to combat both. Lina Hidalgo, welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
Doing great. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, Lina, you decided to take on a very important position. This is a position in counties all over Texas, all over the country. Tell me, why did you choose this specific position that you are choosing, which is county judge?
So the first thing I have to mention is what exactly the position is. I've learned most people don't know what the position actually does. The county judge, along with the commissioner's court, helps control the budget for our enormous county. And the incumbent is at Emmett, whom folks see on TV when there's a flood, but the job is actually to manage the budget, even when it's not raining, so we don't flood in the first place, so that we've got adequate transportation. They have managed the budget for the hospital district, toll road authority, flood control or not. They're going to be managing the funds coming in from the federal government from Harvey recovery. So it's incredibly important. It flies under the radar. And I decided to run because I wanted to help our most vulnerable communities. I knew we could do better. We had two 500-year floods in 2 years by the time Donald Trump was elected, and nobody at the county seemed to be doing anything about it. And I had seen how our criminal justice system was broken, how our mental health system was broken, and I decided, as many women across the country, to step in and run, and now we're doing great and hoping to get in there come November with everyone's support.
Now, Lina, I want to play devil's advocate here. Your opponent is a well-known person. Your opponent is an established man who has run this county with a iron fist for a very long time. Why do you think a fairly young woman is going to come here and unseat him and do a better job? Please tell me why. What gave you the impression that you could possibly do that?
People know we can do better. So, from just a principle standpoint, of course, 40 years in politics got us somebody who couldn't figure out we needed a flood control until we had Hurricane Ike and the Memorial Day flood and the Tax Day flood and Harvey and $125 billion in losses. So what we need is a strong moral compass, somebody who will put the community ahead of the interests that pay to play. And I've got that moral compass. Of course, I've managed people and the budget, and I've worked with folks who are incarcerated, with folks who, for whom the emergency room at Ben Taub is their health care access, and for whom the jail is their mental health access. And that is the role of the county, is to manage institutions that deal with the most vulnerable people. That's the work I've done. Looking at the numbers, of course, in the primary, we flipped the seat already. We got almost 10,000 more votes and a higher percentage of the vote than the 10-year incumbent. A higher percentage of Democrats voted for us than Republicans voted for him. So he is not as well known as people think. Maybe people recognize his name, but the truth is people have no idea. We did a poll. People were evenly split when we gave them options about what is the role of the county judge. There's not been a concerted effort to inform folks of this position that spends their property taxes and makes decisions that affect the lives of thousands of families. So that is one of my platform points, is transparency, and that's why we need a change.
Now, before I get into the specifics of your platform, I want to kind of discuss these social type issues. When I say that, I mean as somebody coming in to fight an incumbent like Ed Emmett, which is a person that you're running against. There is a certain amount of gravity from even Democrats themselves. Democrats have Democrats in general, Harris County Democrats in particular, have a tendency to believe at certain times that, well, this particular Republican guy is a good guy and he merits us taking a look at him. Why don't you dispel the belief that anybody at this point in our history, at anybody in this point in time, really should be, why is it that they shouldn't be, again, now considering any Republican at all, simply because of, again, the allegiance not only to the president, but also the baggage that comes with that title in our time?
Of course. Well, I'll talk about three issues. One of them is, of course, the separation of families, which has been tragic and painful for everyone to watch. Anybody who heard the audio of that child being torn away from her parents and knows that is just wrong from a moral level. And of course, a center was being proposed at the heart of our county. We have 6 centers for children, immigrant children in Harris County, which we don't talk about. And those are the times when we need our leaders to stand up and fight and stand up for our community, for our children and our family that's being torn apart. So that's my commitment. I think if the leader of the largest county in Texas refuses to speak out when families are being torn apart and the center for children, separated children, is being proposed, then we know we need a different leader. The other issue I'll talk about is the jail. We have the distinction of having the largest mental health facility in Texas in Harris County. It's the Harris County Jail. It's been the Harris County Jail. We have discussed small projects, pet projects for which you have to be arrested first to qualify. And again, if we look at the results, we need an absolute shift in the way we think about business at the county. We have to look at results. We have to be smart, and we can't let people behind. So that's why we need a change. Regardless of who the Republican is, the results show that for the sake of our community, we have to and we can do better.
Well, it's amazing because many times we will have our Republican friends try to throw some of the policies that Democrats support as being bad. The thing about it is, how do you call a policy bad if you don't have anything in return to offer, or if you don't have an alternative to offer? Now, Harris County has a very important distinction in the way it handles health care, the county health care system. What are your plans for that?
So the first thing is streamlining. We have got to see healthcare as holistic. By now, everyone has recognized that healthcare is not just you showing up to the doctor and getting medicine as treatment for an issue you have. Take diabetes, for example. I worked with a woman as an interpreter whose young son was pre-diabetic. He was a pediatrician. The pediatrician gave her a list of foods that she should feed him, and she couldn't reach grocery stores that offered that. She had already, she had to work so many jobs. She didn't have a place to put her son while she was at work, where he could be well and safe and fed adequate food, for example. So it reminds us that healthcare is also about housing. It is also about transportation, so that people are able to go to the doctor, because before an issue becomes a crisis, that it is also about food deserts and food swamps, and about encouraging communities that serve everyone and every need. So I will look at it in that way. In the mental health side, of course, I'm happy to talk about that too, but there's a lot that we can do, mostly around streamlining. The county is the umbrella organization for 34 cities, 26 school districts, numerous private and public healthcare providers. And there has been a very serious study done where they figured out that the first step we had to do to address mental health at the county was not so much throw a lot of money at the problem, but actually work to coordinate all of those different services so that folks could go in to the doctor and have their mental health treated at the same time, so that the different institutions can qualify for limited funds and advocate for limited funds together, so that we are identifying issues as early as possible by working with our schools. So a lot of it is just sitting down and looking at the problem holistically, instead of in these silos that have existed simply because there's been an ossification at the county, a sense that this is how things are done and this is how things should continue to be done.
Now, have you been in your encounters as you go through the county and explain exactly what a county judge does? did you find that people were looking at people were able to discern the differences in what you bring and what you would bring and what he has brought?
Of course, first I have to explain to people what it is and who it is. It's, no one sees him outside of when it rains. So that's the first distinction, is transparency. It's a county judge that you can feel, that you can hear all the time, not only when there's a hurricane. The second issue I hear about a lot is public transportation. Do we need to be the last modern community without a true public transportation system? The county's got a mobility fund. We're about to get more seats on the board of Metro after the 2020 census, and we have to prioritize that as opposed to building roads that encourage development where we know we shouldn't build, where we know it increases flooding downstream. So that's another point. And we talk a lot about proactive leadership, whether it's the maternal mortality rate, whether it's building inside the reservoirs, whether it's school shootings. We have gun shows without background checks at county facilities. There is work that the county can do proactively. So it's this distinction between waiting for there to be a crisis, a body count, international attention, or getting ahead of the issues so that we're preventing, costs us less money, we're much smarter, and we're ahead instead of trailing behind other communities.
We're speaking to Lina Hidalgo, who is the Democratic nominee for Harris County Judge. Now, Lina, there were studies in the 90s that predicted exactly what Harvey did. There were plans to build tunnels under I-10 to take excess water out of the reservoirs into the ship channel. There is a lawyer in town, I can't remember his name right now, who has done many hydrological studies of this entire area. None of this is new. Many people who have an affinity for the current judge would tend to make one believe that this is all an accident or this is all climate change. We know part of this is in fact climate change, but all the paperwork, all the studies were there to be done. Are you ensuring, first of all, that the people out there who, again, may have, including many Democrats and progressives, who may have an affinity for this person, understand that, in effect, he simply didn't do the job. The destruction that occurred in Harris County didn't have to be?
Of course, there is an issue with climate change. The first point is calling it what it is. We can't address it if we don't accept climate change as an issue, call it what it is. I think I'm the only candidate in the race to say climate change is happening, and that is why we are having change, rather than saying, something's happening, I'm not sure what it is. But beyond that, of course, there are steps that could have been taken. Again, a lot of it is the fact that the storms are getting worse. But for example, Addicks and Barker, we knew in 2011 the Army Corps of Engineers released an analysis that said that Addicks and Barker were two of the 6 most dangerous dams in the country, most dangerous reservoirs, at risk of catastrophic failure. It is the responsibility of our leaders to tell people, to inform them that they are at that risk. We all know people who live in the flood zone of Addicks and Barker who did not know that was the risk they were at when they purchased a home or when they decided to move there. So my commitment is to tell people of the dangers before they're here so that folks can make an informed decision. We could have worked on the tributaries around Addicks and Barker so that they weren't to alleviate some of the pressure there. But most importantly, the county has been allowing development. The county has drainage authority and it has subdivision plat authority. And it oversees drainage, anything that has to do with bayous, even within the city of Houston, outside of the city, it's drainage and subdivision plat authority. And so my commitment is to enforce that authority, to up the regulations to the extent that we need to. You will see we didn't update our regulations until this past December. After 3 500-year floods in a row, we didn't even update our flood maps. until very recently, again, after 3 500-year floods in a row. So that is where, we have to think ahead, and we have to look out for our community. Of course, we need to grow, but we have to grow smart. And if the government is not the one saying, listen, we can't build here unless you have adequate drainage, then who is supposed to do it? We can't expect folks to police themselves. That's the role of government, and that's where we have failed. And again, a bond election, why now? Why not call it earlier? There's just so much that could have been done. And now we have to make sure that the recovery funds are spent in the best way possible. We can't have the same folks spending the money who only called town halls this year when there was international media and the body count. We can't have the incumbent who takes 50% of contributions from county engineers and developers. That's a conflict of interest.
Now, the bonds that were approved by the citizenry that many of us pretty much some of us opposed because there was no direction for the money. How are you going to ensure as a commissioner? Because as it stands right now, the federal government has caused the prioritization of high-priced or high-value land or rather high-value homes, high-value whatever, to have priority given that they want more bang for the buck. How are you going to ensure that folks in these areas that have less money, the value of their homes are less than the value of the homes, let's say in the Woodlands or Kingwood or elsewhere, how are we going to know that that money is going to be split appropriately to ensure that they get coverage as well?
It's about transparency and participation. So the project list that came out of those 26 public meetings that were done is not binding. All the final decisions are made by the county commissioner's court. So my proposal is to put forth a motion that forms a citizen advisory board, which has true power, in which people can express their concerns and their perspective on which projects ought to be done first. Of course, some projects are already farther along simply because they've been prioritized in the past. So where we're starting anew, like Halls Bayou, folks aren't going to see results for another 4 years simply because it takes a very long time to do the project. So we have to catch up to that. And for that, I believe we need citizen input. So I commit to having town halls all across the county and to having and pushing for meaningful public input and consultation in those decisions.
Now, recently I saw an edit advertising on TV. Do you intend to do any TV advertising, or are you going simply grassroots?
We, of course, are proud of our grassroots effort all across the county. Yes, we are doing advertising. Folks will continue to see it soon. And but, of course, the most important help is people spreading the word. That's how we're building this movement, and people coming out to vote. Nobody can stay home. We can't wake up November 7th and wish we'd done a little bit more, and it starts with voting.
Okay, now in these final minutes or seconds, why don't you give the audience your platform, let them know exactly if they elect Lina Hidalgo, what will Lina Hidalgo do for them?
If you elect me, I will be first proactive. It will not take us a crisis to figure out we need flood control. I will think ahead and work ahead. I will be transparent. You will know what the county judge does, where the money spent. You will see smart metrics on all our programs, the county or the jail, let's say, measured by the extent it reduces recidivism. We will collect smart metrics on disparities, and you will have easy access to your county because I will be there doing town halls year-round, not just right before the election. And finally, I'll be county judge for everyone. We cannot leave communities behind. We will be working for equity at the county and to make sure that as we spend the dollars coming in from Harvey, no community is forgotten, and we include our community instead of 5 guys in a room making decisions while everyone's at work.
Lina Hidalgo, Democratic nominee for Harris County Judge. It was my pleasure to have you on, my friend.
Thank you so much, Egberto, and encourage everyone to come and vote.
Absolutely. Everybody must go vote. Your vote, that's the only way you count. Lina, before I let you go, is there anything that you want to add that I went over? Anything else that you want to add?
Just, early voting starts October 22nd through November 2nd. Election day, November 6th. So please make sure and come out. It is time for change at the county. We are larger than 26 states in population. We should be pulling our weight. I will share we're ahead in the polls. This is possible. And with people's help, we will get there and we will bring proactive leadership, transparency, smart government to Harris County.
Lina Hidalgo, thank you so kindly for having been here, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Folks, that was Lina Hidalgo. That is likely our next county judge. I really have a feeling, and that is the most powerful position in Harris County. And I believe, assuming that this wave materializes, assuming that we do the work that's necessary to ensure that this wave materializes, I think you're going to be looking at the most powerful position in Harris County, going to a woman, and not only to a woman, but to a young person. Anyhow, we are going to continue this program, folks, with the next topic. And the next topic is 25 reasons. I got an email, and this particular blog of the week, I must confess, isn't mine. But when I got it, I had to say, wait a minute. I want to really air this. And the reason why I want to air this is because it's true. Not only that it's true, but if we can get this off to people and people can hear this and people can see this, then it would be just right. They'll understand, oh, actually, we can do this. Anyhow, folks, telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. And before I go there, however, I need to make my first pitch of the day, and that is this is a progressive show. As you know, Politics Done Right is a progressive show whose intent on bringing you progressive candidates on air, ensuring that they get their view. Here's the thing. Folks on the right, the Republican Party, people running for the Republican Party, and a few establishment Democrats. They are loaded. They have all the monies. They have all the TV they can get. Edelson is giving a whole lot more money to the Republican Party. We don't have that. So we have to depend on the grassroots. We have to depend on the independent media, other avenues to get our message out. We have to do what is necessary to win in another manner. So what I'm asking all of you guys that are listening here, number one, is when you listen to Politics Done Right and other shows like Politics Done Right that are trying to move our country forward, to please ensure, numero uno, share the program. Share the program on your wall. Share the program on your page, your Facebook page, Facebook wall. Share the program on Tumblr and everywhere else. It is very important. The vast majority of people will see this program after it is aired. Several thousand will be seeing it on would be listening to it on iTunes, and will be watching it through different avenues that we have as well. So it is imperative that we share. But most importantly as well is that we support this program and other programs like this. I don't just ask for support. I say we should want to support these avenues. If we don't support these avenues, we have relegated the messaging. We have relegated winning to the other side because they have the methods of reaching everybody. Politics Done Right has its nick or its niche. Majority Report has its niche. The Young Turks have its niche, but all of us are serving the same purposes. Our niche is a bit more separated than the other niches. We have people of all kinds, all types that reach everywhere. So what I ask you is let's be fair and do our job and support programs. Personally, I support the dailycoast.com. I support democraticunderground.com, kpft.org. the station where Politics Done Right is on as well. Right now, we're on Coffee Party Network. I support, of course, the party, and of course, opednews.com. And I can go on and on. Little donations to these different. I subscribe to them all. Subscription to these guys to ensure that these guys have a steady flow that can continue to allow them to do what they're doing. So I'm asking you to do that. And as a little bonus, my new book that's going to be coming out early next year, but I'm releasing one chapter at a time. I've already released chapter 1, and those folks who subscribe to the show will be able to read all the chapters as they go on. So by the time the book is released, you would have already read the book, and you will get a full copy of the book after it is released. So I ask you to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right, and subscribe to the show. You subscribe. You don't have to watch the show all the time because the show is always there on iTunes, on TuneIn, on Play, on YouTube, everywhere. You can get the show. So again, just help us with the show. Patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. It is the right thing to do. It ensures that we can get the progressive message out. Many people ask, why do we lose? Why is it that we have the message? Why is it that we are the moral ones, and somehow we can't get our message out, and somehow we can't get folk to vote? And the reason why, folks, is that we are not funded. We are not funded. So what we really need, folks, is for you to support something that is very important. And Politics Done Right is one of many that are out there that are fighting like hell to change our politics, that's fighting like hell to ensure that we move forward. So it is very important that you support us. Again, patreon.com/politics done right. And by the way, we have a group, How to Make America Utopia, for the book. And if you join that group and give ideas, and we use your ideas in the book, guess what? Your name will be codified in the book. You'll be cited in the book with your permission, of course. And this book is going to be sold all over. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, every bookstore will have the book. So please go ahead and subscribe to patreon.com/politics done right. Anyhow, you know what time it is, right? Do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, like I mentioned before, guess what? The blog post wasn't written by me today. The blog post was sent to me by email from a professor who said, could you please give this some exposure? He said, could you please put this out? We want this message out. And I just saw a list of 25 things, and I said, you know what? Professor, ask no more, because it goes out. So here is the deal. Let me tell you who the guy is. Professor Arthur Blaustein taught politics and public policy at the University of California, Berkeley, and is the author of Democracy is Not a Spectator Sport and The American Promise. He served as chair of the National Advisory Council of Economic Opportunity under Presidents Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, and on the board of National Endowment for the Humanities under President Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. And the title of his prose, the title of his article, the title of his post is Election 2018, 25 Reasons to Vote and Get Involved, by Arthur Blaustein. Okay, here we go. If you are thinking of sitting out of the upcoming congressional elections on November 6th, think again, because the result will directly and indirectly affect you and your whole family in ways that you never imagined. So, instead of pushing the snooze button, think about the issues that matter to you and the people you care about. It's worth the effort as the stakes are high. And he put 3 exclamation marks. It's high. The stakes are high. The issues to consider, not necessarily in the order of importance, are, and before I go into the issues that he speaks about, or I want to reiterate what he says. The results of this election will affect you directly and indirectly. we have a lot of people who are apathetic. You have a lot of people who decided that, I don't think I'm going to vote because things never change. Well, those who thought they weren't going to vote because things never change, or those who diluted their vote because they think things never change or it doesn't make a difference, Donald Trump has made that clear. And for those of you, I may repeat myself a bit here, but for those of you who haven't heard before, all the laws that Donald Trump have passed thus far, the vast majority of them, yeah, the cliche is that they are for rich people, which is true. But it's not only that these laws were for rich people, or the spoils for these laws, the monies that were effected from these laws went to a lot of rich people. That's not the only thing. He has materially hurt the middle class. He has materially hurt the poor. He has done things that will materially kill many of the poor and the middle class based on where they live and the regulations that have been wiped out. So I like to give the example here in the Texas region called Pasadena, Cancer Alley, where the deregulation that he has passed has given carte blanche for these refineries to now pollute the air even more with benzene, other types of chemicals. Though that area that will get more polluted is an area that voted strongly for Donald Trump. So in effect, a vote for him, a vote for his people, a vote for any Republican that supports him, a vote for any Republican, because anybody calling themselves a Republican today has either have to renounce Republicanism, like many of them are, who are urging folks to vote for Democrats right now. I tell you, before I get to the finished blog of the week, I had a great story today. I went to the gym today, and a friend of mine, and I don't use names because I like to protect people's identities and people's privacy. But he came up to me out of the blue. He just came up, and he tapped me and he said, I think you're going to like what I have to tell you. And I'm like, really? What is it? He said, you know that guy you guys have running called Beto O'Rourke? Beto O'Rourke is the guy running to unseat Ted Cruz. I hate Ted Cruz. I can't take it. I am voting Democratic this year. This is from a born Republican in a very red area here in Texas. And this is what he told me today. My next question to him was, how are the guys that you hang with? Do you hear this sort of story? He said, well, Egberto, we don't really talk politics. But I'm telling you, if this person who came and told me that is changing his vote, I'm going to tell you something. I am very concerned about how polling is going to occur right now and much more, because I don't, it is never good to go ahead and go against science, and polling has been a science for quite a while, if not a dubious science, but some sort of a science. But I am feeling something right now here in Texas and otherwise, that a lot of Republicans simply won't say, I'm voting for a Democrat or whatever. They're actually saying to themselves, I don't know what I'm going to do. And very few would come out and tell you straight out they are going to vote Democratic. But I want to talk directly to my Republican listeners. You know that there's something wrong as well. All of you know there is absolutely, caller, I'm coming to you next. There's absolutely something wrong out there. You know that. You know that things are not normal. You know that the president is not, that what's going on in the Congress, in the White House is not normal. You know what's going on in Congress and the Senate is not normal. You feel it. You know that. But tribalism, comfort, peer pressure, I can list a whole lot of things that will likely cause many Republicans to go into that voting booth and still pull the Republican ticket simply because of history, because of culture, because of peer pressure, because of much. But I want to remind every single person who goes into that voting booth, you can always do the right thing and come out and not say. Because that is one part of our lives that is very private. You go and you go into that booth and you decide who you are going to vote for. And when you decide who you are going to vote for, think about your children, Think about your family. Think about your friends. Think about all these other people that you interact with that you know the current policies are a detriment to. You may be doing good for those folks who live in places like Kingwood and other places, doing fairly well. A Trump versus a Clinton versus a dummy doesn't matter because you have enough. You have the wherewithal to survive. But the vast majority of Americans don't. 80% of Americans are a paycheck away from difficulty. 80% of Americans are a paycheck away from difficulty. And there's nothing that Trump is doing. There's nothing the Republican Party is doing right now to say, I am going to help my fellow man. I am going to help the rest of America. I am going to do what's right. So it comes upon the people. You know, a lot of folks have told me, Egberto, I would vote Democratic if just for one thing, abortions. That's what they tell me. I just feel like I'm killing a baby if I vote for a Democrat. And that is big. The church has been great, right? The church has made that decision for you. They have made the decision, many in the evangelical church and others, in their opposition to abortion and other things, they have said, yes, if you vote for a Democrat, you're voting to kill a baby. You're supporting killing a baby, so you're an accessory to murder. And they've cauterized that in the minds of many, many Republicans. A vote for a Democrat is a vote to kill a baby. Mine, I am a Democrat. I don't believe in abortion. I don't want abortions, but I am absolutely in support that a woman must control her body. A woman must be in control of her entire body. And I, have, as a man, first of all, have no right to tell her what to do. If I want, if the supreme being or the way things were created wanted to have me in control somehow of a woman's body, then I would have been able to have kids. I can't. So it is imperative, folks, that you don't fall for that. But the second thing that I want to add, yes, they like to tell you, if you vote for a Democrat, the church likes to tell you, if you vote for a Democrat, you're committing murder because you're an accessory to that woman aborting a fetus who they consider live. I don't know. I think it's above my pay grade to figure that out. However, when you deny food stamps to kids who starve and die, is that not accessory to murder? When you prevent your state from receiving health care, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, when you could have gotten that for free, and just out of spite to a president, you decided you won't have it, and it causes the death of over 2,000 born Texans, several more thousand born Americans. Are you not an accessory to murder? So you have to ask yourself a question. Are you going to be a single issue voter that because you do not believe in abortion, but you believe in freedom, that somehow you are going to risk the financial well-being, the health well-being of all Americans because you don't agree with abortion? So instead of killing, or and this is in your parlance, instead of killing a fetus, you kill several live, born human beings. I want you to consider that. Because the argument that many in the evangelical church have been making has always been a fraud. These are very complicated issues. Their simplistic method, and now their unadulterated support for somebody like Donald Trump proves the fraud that is the evangelical movement. Not you, my dear evangelical people. I'm not talking about you individually. I'm talking about your leadership. They are a fraud, and they know it, and they know what they're doing, and their souls are all for sale. The fact that they can have the unadulterated support for Donald Trump proves that they are frauds. Okay, let me continue again. Here, the issues to consider, not necessarily in this order of why you should vote. Decent jobs, and caller, I'm coming after this. Decent jobs at livable wages. Voter suppression numero dos. 3, global warming, in other words, climate change. 4, public education and student loans. That's a biggie. You know, right now they are going to, they were considering retransferring student loans to the private sector. In other words, somebody whose the loan is guaranteed, but still yet they're going to charge you a whole bunch. Makes no sense. Women's choice. That's what we just spoke about. Medicare and Medicaid. Affordable health care. Campaign finance reform. So important. The Supreme Court and federal judges. Right now, Trump is on a what do you call that? On a keel. I mean, he's on a rip. Just going filling those jobs like crazy. And why is he filling those jobs like crazy? Why is he filling those jobs like crazy? You know why? Because they want to ensure that because they know they are going to be a minority party, the one part of government that doesn't require a majority, that doesn't require democracy, is judges, the court system. Sexual abuse and equal justice. Separation of church and state, increasing poverty, hunger, and homelessness. 13, assault weapons on the street. 14, security, social security. 15, consumer protection. 16, immigration reform. 17, preemptive war and national security. 18, disaster preparedness. 19, maldistribution of wealth and economic justice. A big one. 20, fair and progressive tax reform. 21st, basic research in science, health, and technology. 22, renewable energy and a sustainable environment. 23, NPR.net. Yes, Sesame Street, the National Endowment of the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Number 24, cronyism, lying, manipulation, and incompetence in government. 25, infrastructure development, mass transit, the energy grid, schools, bridges, roads, and airports. You want a reason to vote? Those things need taken care of yesterday. And the longer we take to do it, the further we fall, my friends. After careful analysis of the issues listed above, one can safely conclude that the positions of the Democrats are mainstream, moderate, and reasonable, whereas the positions of Republicans are ideological, opportunistic, and, most importantly, dangerous. The choices are stark, the stakes are high, and the consequences could be devastating. Folks, heed the warning. Heed the warning. Finally, it must be said that it is far better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. The most important thing to do for those who are concerned about the character, integrity, and future of our country, about democracy, the rule of law, and the common good, is to spend the next few weeks until Election Day putting our energy, money, and time into efforts to flip control of Congress, both the House and the Senate, to the Democrats. Then we will have both congressional committees and the special counsel doing their legitimate jobs of investigating Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election, cover-ups, and possible collusion, as well as having the legislative authority to limit the worst excesses of the Trump administration. And of course, we would cease putting judges in office until we get a sensible president in office. Folks, that is the blog of the week. Please do remember to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and support Politics Done Right. That is the right thing to do. And we have our Skype call. Come on in, my friend.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Egberto. How are you?
Welcome aboard, Mike.
today?
How are you doing today?
hanging there. It's just, I think October surprise is not far away, my friend. If there is nothing happening in October, for sure November surprise will come. What do you think, my friend, is that?
I don't know. Do you have an answer for me?
Okay. What I think, we are just, you are different time zone. Mm-hmm. We are in 13 right now. But okay, I do it according to your time zone. So we have 7 days on October 19th. Mm-hmm. And October 23. These are 2 days mm-hmm. that very important because they may issue to arrest Hillary Clinton and also Obama.
Oh, really?
And if that happens, yeah, if that's what the October surprise is, if that's not happened, then on the eve of November 6th, they are going to say, oh, there are all the internet kill switch is with them, with Sir Trump president, and he's going to order kill switch of the whole internet and call for martial law and delay the elections until further notice. What do you think of that scenario, my friend?
Well, I would be scared to death. If that happens, it's time for me to make sure and renew my Panamanian passport and go back home. Because that would be very, very, very dangerous. And I think that would actually finally cause liberals to react. Liberals have a tendency not to react immediately. They're slow to react. And I think that is exactly what that would cause. That would cause so much of an uproar. It would be something to see. Look, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're completely wrong on that. But you know what? Hey, the way things have been going, Mike, you never know what's going to happen in this country anymore. You never know. I mean, who would have thought it?
Yeah, exactly.
Who would have thought that Donald Trump could possibly have been president of the United States? Who would have thought that? I mean,
yes.
So that's a possibility. Anything else you'd like to add, my dear friend Mike?
Yes. About this, Kanye West brings 4D chess to White House. We have released the love. Mm-hmm. President Donald Trump met with hip-hop superstar and fashion mogul Kanye West on Thursday and spoke to the media in his Oval Office. And Trump is on his hero's journey right now. West said he might not have thought he would have a crazy mother if, like Kanye West, run up and support President of the United States of America, and he had a hat called "Make America Great," MAGA, and so he said that, I feel like a Superman. I mean, this is fake shows. These are all what you see is totally fake news, and then he says CNN and other news are fake news. I mean, I don't understand it.
It's crazy. I didn't. If you notice, I didn't even speak about Kanye West on the show today. And the reason why is I just wanted that to go away. Kanye West is an embarrassment to everybody. So, I mean...
Absolutely.
I didn't even want to cover the topic because, like I said, it's not worth the time. I mean, America is going through enough right now than to listen to Kanye West and the President of the United States praise each other. They're two children. That's what it is. They're two immature children. So I don't give them a whole lot of credence. But anyhow, we're coming close to the end.
Yeah.
Go ahead, real quick.
Sure. I want to just say that in District 12, there is a gentleman running let me just quick here. Okay. His name is, actually it's right here. One second.
That's okay.
His name is Niles. His name is Niles.
Okay.
Niles, and he's a District 12 of, Michigan. So he's like a Bernie Sanders,
right.
a socialist Democrat.
Right.
So please remember to vote for him, Niles Nimot, because if he goes there, your medical, Medicare, every Social Security not only will be intact, they will give you exactly increase it like Obama wants to do it for a state to increase medical for everyone. So the 20% that people have to pay, medical will pay for it automatically. But so please remember, District 12 of Michigan, Mr. Niles Nimot, he is belong to Socialist Democrat Party of USA. So please vote Democrats and let us get back House of Rep and House of Senate.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Have a party on that night.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you very much.
Thank
my
you,
friend.
sir. Now, folks, we are near the end of the show, and thank you, Mike, for calling in. I think you're calling in from Singapore, as usual. Folks, we're coming to the end of the show, and I want to remind you one more time to please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Support Progressive Radio. It is imperative that we do that. This is how we are going to get our message across. This is how we are going to talk to enough people that we can start not just in 2018, but in 2020 and beyond, make sure that we get our message out so that people will stop voting against their own interests, so that people will vote for their interests. So those of you who subscribe to our show will have access to the group for the book, How to Make America Utopia. It's a book that I'm writing right now. Anybody who gives ideas in that group that I happen to use in the book will be cited with your permission as well. And again, you will be in a book that's distributed everywhere. And those of you, and by the way, I write one chapter at a time. As I release a chapter, I put it online for those of you that are subscribers to see. Again, please go ahead and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Support something worth supporting. It is very, very important that we get your support, and other progressive outlets get your support as well. That is the way we're going to move our message forward. Before I go, I just want to give a shout out to Chase Escamilla. Chase is one of my listeners here that turns out to be a digital expert. And I went out to his studio today, spent a couple hours to see how we can better maximize politics done right in the digital space. So thank you very much, Chase Escamilla. And for those of you, after you see what we're going to do, I'm pretty sure other folks at other organizations doing this would probably love the services of El Señor Escamilla. So folks, please go ahead and subscribe to patreon.com/politics done right. My name is Egberto Willies, and you know how I end this. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.